Goku and Superman. Heroes of the East and the West, beings of immeasurable power, fashion icons. Their influence on pop culture, animation, and the comic book medium is of a magnitude few of us could ever hope to reach. And as such, this has led to the two figures being compared a lot. Both smiling alien refugees growing up with Earth as their adopted homeworld, saving the world as young men countless times and attracting a group of similarly powerful friends through their example. Bane of those with hair troubles, you get the idea. Pretty similar, but with some key differences that may not be initially apparent. So what if they swap places? What would happen if the planet Krypton traded positions in the multiverse with Planet Vegeta, leaving the Saiyan race in the DC universe? Well, a lot would happen. Like a lot. Universe-shaking repercussions before we even get to our Orange Clan friend, in fact. So a lot of that I'll have to go back to if you want a follow-up video, but for the sake of time, here's the basic timeline. Saiyans are bad news. Imagine intergalactic space Spartans with laser hands, who are also giant monkey werewolves. So yeah, not something people can ignore. The Saiyans go around with their usual deal, as they did in Dragon Ball. However, this time, without a single universal ruler to answer to in Frieza, the Saiyans focus purely on challenging the strongest races. Their drive for battle bring them against basically everyone worth the time, and this goes well. Except when it doesn't. DC is a universe with infinitely more types of alien species, and while this means a lot more chance for the Saiyans to engage in combat, it also means they build up a lot more enemies, especially since Green Lanterns are kind of a thing. The Saiyans would be widely hated by basically every other race in the universe, their sheer power and tenacity making them a problem too great for the Guardians of the Green Lantern Corps to leave it to the resident Green Lantern to deal with it. But at the same time, they were hesitant to have their police force engage in like a full-on invasion, even if they could. Luckily for them, that wouldn't be a problem. The Saiyans were bringers of war, and war breeds hatred. Enter Rogol Zaar. For those of you not currently reading Brian Michael Bendis' current Superman run, Rogol Zaar is a powerful new enemy who bears a hatred for Kryptonians, claiming they were too dangerous to be left alive, and it's suggested that he may have, or at least was trying to, destroy the planet Krypton. So while his descriptions of the Kryptonians as warlike and barbaric might seem far-fetched to fans who know the lore, the Saiyans? Oh, he'd be totally on the money, and probably even more devoted to his cause as a noble one. He comes before the highest beings in the universe and asks permission to end the Saiyan race. They agree pretty much instantly. Problem solved. When the moment is right, Planet Vegeta is destroyed through unknown means, but the majority of the Saiyan race goes up with it. Given the power of many DC races, Saiyans couldn't afford to have as many of their troops alone in small groups on other worlds, so they were all on the planet when it blew up, mostly. Any survivors, Rogol Zaar would make it his life goal to hunt down and eradicate. Now you may ask, what about Goku? Well, luckily for this scenario, Earth is still a pretty backwater planet in the large scheme of DC, at least to the Saiyans. So little Kakarot still gets sent there to wipe out the inhabitants. Or, if you want the new take, Bardock gets wind that the Saiyans have pretty much pissed off the entire universe and figures his son would be better off on a planet without a target on it. So Goku lands on Earth, near the outskirts of Kent Farm to be exact. The Kents investigate the crash and find the baby in his pod. Now, the Kents see this as a miracle, even with the tail. They had been unable to conceive a child on their own, and so jump at the opportunity to take in the space baby as their own. Oh, and they probably name him Clark still, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm still just gonna call him Goku or Kakarot. Unfortunately for the loving Kents, Saiyan babies ain't little balls of sunshine. Kakarot is the ultimate problem child. Super strong, constantly hungry and wild, Martha and Jonathan managed to survive for a few years, but it pushes them to the brink. Any other parent would have long since ran away screaming, but the Kents were something else. Patient and loving don't even come close to describing the level of discipline they had to raise a Kryptonian baby. A Saiyan would be harder, but not impossible for them. But with all the rocky situations like this, there must come a breaking point. One night, be it waking up in the night or an attempt to sneak out, the young Kakarot takes a glimpse of the full moon for the first time. Jonathan and Martha watch in horror as the child they took in becomes a gigantic monster, rampaging through their fields. Jonathan tries to console the monster, attempting to reach his adopted son through the beast. He is crushed in a single blow from the ape's fist. Martha, terrified, tries to plead one last time, knowing it was her only chance of survival. But before the great ape could do further damage, a Green Lantern arrives on the scene. Abin Sur, the Green Lantern before the ones you might be more familiar with, was sent by the Guardians to find the Saiyan pods sent to this sector and eliminate or capture the warrior within. Although his search up to that point had led to nothing, the distinct energy absorbed and given off by Saiyans undergoing a great ape transformation alerted his ring, and he arrived on the scene. The Lantern battled the monster, even his great powers struggling to combat the beast without lethal force, until a stray shot cut Kakarot's tail, undoing the transformation and leaving the now unconscious child to fall headfirst into a crater formed from the battle. Abin Sur was disgusted to find out it had been a child he was sent to eliminate, and as such, knowing that without his tail the child was no immediate threat, felt it was right to give the Saiyan race a chance at a fresh start. He would entrust the grief-stricken Martha not to make this night a mistake, and to raise this child right. When asked by the Guardians, Abin Sur simply stated that the threat was eliminated. The Guardians, not really wanting to push the "did you kill the baby?" button any further, were happy to leave it at that. Cut to a few years later, and Goku had been a different child ever since that night. He was kind, gentle, inquisitive, joyful and adventurous, though not particularly book smart. While she still missed her husband greatly, Martha was able to heal alongside Goku, raising him to understand his strength was best used to help others, and discouraging his assistants on trying to fight everything. Being with Martha Kent as opposed to Grandpa Gohan leads to a Goku who is initially weaker, but a little smarter. Still no genius, but being homeschooled on farms tend to give better results than growing up alone in the mountains. Oh, and the homeschool bit? Yeah, Martha quickly realised that sending Goku to a public school was going to end in disaster for everyone. The two formed a close bond, but Goku around the age of 12 began to feel cooped up. Farming was fun, but it wasn't nearly enough to satisfy his warrior instincts. He understood that genuinely fighting people was bad. Martha did try to help him with karate courses and books she found online, but Goku ran through all of them quickly, it only serving to make him want the real thing even more. She made it clear that people could get hurt if he wasn't careful and that violence isn't the best option, but he still struggled to console that with how he was feeling. A Goku in the DC universe grows up initially being far more aware of his differences to others, and a lot more uncertain in his goals. He wants to get as strong as he can and fight the very best, but now there is a layer of self-doubt to that. Uncertainty, and a little bit of shame at these feelings. One thing he does become clearer with is that his willingness to help others is amplified. Goku's innate kindness is expanded under the Kents, leaning him to be a little closer to the super-heroic version of Goku, seen in the original English dub. Eventually, this yearning for new things and adventure leads to Goku deciding to casually leave home to explore the world. Martha is deeply saddened at her child leaving the nest, but part of her understands completely. Goku was never going to be happy to live on a farm. He was meant for more that she just didn't have the tools to give him. Goku spends his teenage years all over the planet, moving from adventure to adventure, as the DC Earth has no shortage of opportunity for the young Saiyan to finally express this side of himself. His journey around the world takes him to multiple locales, getting to exert himself for the first time and live in the wild on Dinosaur Island, probably filling his belly to the brim for the first time in his life too. He would come into conflict with his first set of mad geniuses on Oolong Island. See why. Moving on. Goku would be mightily confused at their attempt to contain him, feeling the first linges of pain he can remember against their weapons. But in the end, he would level the building once he discovered that they were up to no good. He was approached by the Atlanteans as he swam across the oceans of the world, almost causing unrest in the deep from a couple of misunderstandings and his eagerness to fight. But eventually they let him go, seeing he was of no harm, except maybe to the sea life population if he didn't stop eating. Dr. Fate was his first encounter with the superheroic community. During his journey across Egypt, Goku stumbled upon the mage under siege from a portal of demons. You know, spooky stuff he deals with every Wednesday. Goku took the chance to help, and after the battle was won, Fate entrusted Goku with 2 mystical items in his collections as thanks, remarking that the boy reminded him of an old Eastern myth. He continued journeying around the world, now able to fly on his Nimbus Cloud, and aiding small rebel factions in war war-torn countries purely by accident, attracting attention in conspiracy circles as a wild-haired strongman, dressed in ripped farmer's overalls performing incredible feats. He also came into contact with various teachers, searching for the truly strong wherever he went. Being first trained by a Richard Dragon, who eventually couldn't put up with Goku and sent him on his way. Then David Kane, who did the same. And Lady Shiva, so Goku didn't exactly fit with the self-serious, death-focused ultra martial artists of DC. He was simply too calm, too pure in his ambition and goals, that despite increasing his martial arts proficiency, he could never quite respect these people as true teachers, given the way they acted. Even the League of Assassins attempted to manipulate Goku, by this time 16 years old, into joining them. At first, he simply wanted to learn new things from them, and they seemed to help people. But eventually, Goku came to think of their methods as cheap and unfair, with Ra's al Ghul seeking to dispose of the boy once it became apparent that there was never going to be a way to get the Saiyan to see his way of things. They battled for a time, with Raz's trickery allowing him to contest Goku's greater speed and power, for a brief time, but eventually he was overwhelmed. When Goku struck him down, he decided not to kill him, and hoped he would fight him again someday. Raz's broken body crawled into the Lazarus pit, defeated, but having gained a sense of respect for the boy, having in all his years never faced someone so pure of heart, focused on battle, a real martial artist. Finally, he met the one he would truly call master. In China, on the hunt for some food, Goku stumbled into the dojo of I Ching, a blind master of martial arts. I Ching immediately sensed the incredible latent life force inside of Goku and asked him to join his public group sessions. Goku said sure, and unlike most beings in the DC universe, enjoyed getting to train with members of the public in meditation, forming many friends with his easygoing personality. In their more serious personal sessions, I Ching would inform Goku of Qi, life force energy that I'm probably mispronouncing, the Chinese concept of what Dragon Ball fans know better as Ki, allowing those who harness it to perform incredible feats. Goku spent the rest of his globetrotting with I Ching, training and improving at a rate far beyond what he had been capable of before. The 8 trigrams of the Bagura, I know, stick with me folks, are what Goku was instructed to follow in his training, mastering them rapidly over the years and growing dramatically in strength accordingly. He mastered all except 2 of the trigrams. The 5th trigram, Li, fueled by passion and fire, and the 7th, Qian, again, which was of creation and heaven. Remember that. It'll mean something eventually. Despite not being able to fully master himself, he could now move far faster than lightning, annihilate mountains with a thrust of his hand, resist mental attacks, sense people from worlds away, and bolster his strength in short bursts. But above all, the most important lesson learned from I Ching was an acceptance of who he was, that all things in life have a balance. The enjoyment of battle does not mean one has to become a force of destruction. The betterment of the self was a noble goal, a path to enlightenment, and one Goku finally felt at peace with. I Ching knew that Goku had to venture out on his own path if he wished to further his development, and left him an orange and blue suit, having pulled some strings with the Chinese government to gather materials strong enough to withstand Goku's type of battle. I'm gonna insert a rough image of what I'd imagine Goku's superhero outfit would look like here. The one personal touch, which was at Goku's request, was the yin-yang symbol on the back, something to honour his master by and a reminder of his goal. I Ching had saw the potential for true martial arts perfection within Goku, and he wished that he'd never forget to strive for that goal, to become more than duality, to become aware of the void, and forgo the self entirely. Movement without thought, acting on instinct. Ah, well, I can't imagine anyone pulling that off. Goku became a free spirit, but his first for stronger opponents eventually brought him to the big city, Metropolis. Lex Luthor, the most powerful man on Earth, they say. Goku immediately challenged him to a fight, became confused when security tried to remove him, and then even more dumbfounded when Luthor was nearly knocked unconscious from a single poke. Despite more education in DC Universe, Goku was still Goku. The Daily Planet reported the scene, the humiliation of Lex Luthor by a martial artist in an orange and blue jumpsuit. Saved from the mobs oppressed by Jimmy Olsen, Goku was informed that Luthor was powerful in other ways, not punch-ups, but that he was a real bad guy. Not really understanding everything, but seeing the chance to try and defeat a different kind of strength, he decided to help any way he could, he had taken a liking to Jimmy. Goku became Metropolis's protector in order to aid his new friend, while reporter Lois Lane tried to expose Luthor through actual channels, with Goku acting more as the muscle when things involved goons and robots. Luckily for Goku, this meant he got to fight stronger and stronger opponents. Foes like Metallo, Toyman, Livewire, Atomic Skull, Lobo, which was a particularly insane brawl that leveled a few streets, and then the two went to eat together. And whatever scheme Luthor came up with to remove the buffoon from his plans. Goku would like spending time with Lois in much the same way regular Goku did with Bulma, as she helped explain things to him, and was the only bastion of common sense between him and Jimmy. While Lois thought Goku was attractive and refreshing to be around given his innocence, she saw him more as a little brother than anything romantic. Goku gaining a rep also meant he was eventually approached by the Batman. They had actually met before a few times during Batman's training when they shared a common master or two, though Goku didn't really remember him that much, which annoyed Bruce. Batman explained to Goku that he did some digging into just who he was, and put together quickly that he was the Kent's boy, and had been the one who killed Pa Kent. The revelation shocked and horrified Goku, which Batman used to enforce the idea that he owed it to that man to help others more seriously with his power. Batman saw Goku as a potential threat, and wanted to make sure he was on the right path to being more than just a hero for fun. Still, Batman respected Goku as a fellow martial artist, and felt that he wasn't a total lost cause, even if he was far from the motivated weapon of justice that Bruce was. Soon after, they encountered Wonder Woman together, and soon the Trinity found their leader in Diana, the middle ground between Goku's naivete and Bruce's cynicism. Goku particularly enjoyed regular sparring sessions with Diana, who was the first opponent he couldn't defeat, feeling himself get stronger after every beatdown she gave him. Wonder Woman, on the other hand, was so relieved to find a friend and a man who was basically just an Amazon. Eventually, Goku slowly met other heroes which were popping up over the world, and he learned from their amazing powers to try and push his own. Seeing the Green Lantern firing energy blasts led him to mimicking it with his Qui. Seeing Wonder Woman flying led him to develop it himself. The Flash gave him the idea of using after images, and even Shazam helped him develop the trend of shouting his attacks. For some reason, it came naturally to Goku, despite many of us finding it strange, while the younger heroes saw it as the coolest thing ever. So that's Goku in DC. Not a symbol of hope, truth and justice by any means, but a more spiritual hero, one who encourages people to be better than themselves and take a breath now and again. A laid-back protector who may need to work on controlling property damage, but always means well and saves lives nonetheless. It's an interesting notion, and one I feel like could be explored a whole lot more. For example, what happens when a family member, a bold man, and a certain Saiyan prince decide to pay Earth a visit in search of Kakarot, only to find Earth is more defended than they imagined. But that's for another time. Show your support to this video and check out the other half over on Smugstick's channel, which I'll link in the description and down below, where he'll be exploring what Dragon Ball would be like if Superman was around. As always, I hope you've enjoyed, and take it easy folks.